Till the bitter end.
Till the bitter end. Well, you saw it here first, everybody. Netflix doing history revisionism as part of the woke agenda, making every historical figure gay. You know, who's next? Liberace? Who will they come for? Who are they going to try and erase, you know, and change and take away from the straights? Like, straight people, you're going to be okay. It's just my message to Sargon and the rest of the crew that who decided, yeah, we got to put on suits and ties to talk about this very important topic again. It's like their second or maybe it's their third video. I haven't been totally paying attention on this Netflix series coming out that really pisses them off, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Yes, Netflix makes... Is this Alexander the Gay, or I thought this one was going to be about Achilles?
Hitherto, all people we conventionally refer to as historians are to be thought of as prehistorians. There's only one objective historian. It's called Netflixius, and the people at Netflix are the only ones who have access to his annals of history. And he says basically that homosexuality was incredibly prevalent in ancient Greece, and especially when it comes to Alexander the Great and Achilles and Patroclus. I don't know, when I read the Iliad, I never saw the passage where Achilles and Patroclus were rubbing tips or something. Nope. It just wasn't there.
Oh, it's like the best fucking passage. Are you kidding me? Like right before the whole mermaid sirens thing goes down. Oh yeah, that's poetry, baby.
I mean, there's the passage where they're with their women, and then there's Achilles being like, he took my woman, I need my woman back, I'm deeply in love with her, but he doesn't actually have sex with a man.
I am so disgusted by this bi erasure. You just see it all the time, you know? Us bisexuals, we can't get a break. Every single time there's a historical figure who may or may not have been a little gay, not fully gay, just like, you know, having some fun with the boys. What's wrong with having a little fun with the boys?
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe that was a way of
subtly hinting that he was gay.
Subtly hinting, yeah.
His wife and concubine, yeah.
Anyway, now speaking of resisting dumbing down, you can visit a website. Calvin Robinson.
Well, you know, rather than do that, let's take a little look at history, because we can learn about the gay. It's a many beautiful thing, let me tell you. Achilles and it's Patroclus or Patroclus? It's Patroclus, I believe. Let's learn how to pronounce properly. Or Patroclus. Patroclus, sorry.
Patroclus.
Patroclus, Achilles and Patroclus. There we have it. The relationship between Achilles and Patroclus is a key element of the stories associated with the Trojan War. In the Iliad, Homer describes a deep and meaningful relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, where Achilles is tender towards Patroclus, but callous and arrogant towards others. Its exact nature, whether homosexual, a non-sexual deep friendship, which is also a beautiful thing between two men, or something else entirely. Experimentation? You know, sometimes it's like, hey, bro, no homo, but like, would you want to just jerk off together? You don't have to touch each other. You don't even have to look at me. Just like, we'll do it in the same room or something. You know, maybe something like that. Who knows? Has been a subject of dispute in classical period and modern times. Homer never explicitly cast the two as lovers, but they were depicted as lovers in the archaic and classical periods of Greek literature, particularly in the works of Plato. Plato. You horny dog. I should have known. You made the whole thing gay well before Netflix was around. This was not the time of Netflix. Yeah, I'm not 100% completely sure on the year in which Plato may have stated this. Again, we would have had to probably hear it from Socrates. But yeah, either way. Oh my. Oh my. Achilles and I forgot how to say it. Patroclus, sorry. Achilles and Patroclus quarter together in the tent near the Greek allies' fleets of the ships. King Agamemnon realizes that Achilles, due to his historic reputation, needs to enter the fight, but Achilles, having been disrespected by Agamemnon, refuses. Agamemnon sends an envoy to change his mind. In book 9, lines 225 to 241, the diplomats Odysseus and Ajax hear Achilles playing the lyre and singing along with Patroclus. They both spring to their feet in surprise as the guests enter. Why? Why would it be like, what's up? What's going on? Yeah, no, we were just hanging out. um, talking about war and stuff, war stuff, you know. After much talk, the embassy fails to convince Achilles to fight. After more battle, Nestor arrives to the Greek allies' base with a wounded soldier. Achilles sends Patroclus out to speak with him. In Book 9, Nestor reminds Patroclus that his father had long ago taught him that Achilles was nobler, that he and Patroclus was still Achilles' elder, and therefore he should not counsel and guide Achilles wisely, so that perhaps he would finally enter the fight against the Trojans, but if not, then he himself, Patroclus, should don Achilles' armor to deceive the Trojans into thinking Achilles had joined the fight, which should scare them away from the base and back to their own walls. Later on, the Trojans continued their advance on the Greek allies' base, breach the defensive, and guarding their ships. Patroclus eventually dons Achilles' armor and scares the Trojans back as planned, and Patroclus also kills Sarpedon, son of Zeus, and then Hector kills Patroclus. News of Patroclus' death reaches Achilles through Nestor's son, which throws Achilles into deep grief. The earlier steadfast and unbreakable Achilles agonizes, touches Patroclus' dead body, smearing himself with ash and fasting. He laments Patroclus' death using language very similar to the grief of Hector's wife. He also requests that when he dies, his bones be mixed with Patroclus' in a vase. The rage, I mean, I've never been in love with a man, but, you know, I've been sexually attracted to men before. I've never once fathomed potentially requesting that our ashes be mixed together in some joint unison. I think that is a deep and profound and quite beautiful love that could mean a many a thing. Not going to look too deep into that, but the rage that follows Patroclus' death becomes the prime motivation for Achilles to return to the battlefield. He returns to battle with the sole aim of avenging Patroclus' death by killing Hector, despite a warning that doing so will cost him his life. After defeating Hector, Achilles strangles his corpse by the heels behind his chariot. Achilles' strongest and personal bonds is with Patroclus, as it is pointed out. For Achilles, in his own ascending scale of affection as dramatized by the entire composition of the Iliad, the highest place must belong to Patroclus. In fact, he is for Achilles he who is Philos by far. It means companion or comrade. In Homer, it is usually meant for soldiers under the same commander, while its feminine form would be used for courtesans. It is still the form of a soldier. In ancient texts, Philos often translates to, quote, the most beloved, denoting a general type of love, used for love between family, between friends, or desire, enjoyment of any activity, as well as between lovers. We also pointed out that in this period of time, it was not considered gay to be a top, essentially, that it wasn't considered a homosexual act for a man to have sex with another man as long as he was doing the penetration. That was not considered itself to be gay or homosexual. So that which would be considered homosexual was what was considered to be feminine. So it was a different way of kind of looking at sexuality in that period of time than we do today. Classical views. So Socrates, according to Xenophon's Symposium, Socrates stated that Achilles and Patroclus were strictly platonic. Specifically, according to Socrates, Homer pictured Achilles looking upon Patroclus not as the object of his passion, but as a comrade, and his spirit signaled avenging his death. Aeschylus, in his Lost Tragedy, the Myrmidons, assigned Achilles the role of Aristates, or protector, since he avenged his brother's death, even though the gods told him it would cost him his own life. Pindar's comparison of the adolescent boxer Hagesidamus, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Plato. In Plato's Symposium, the speaker Phaedrus holds up Achilles and Patroclus as an example of divine approved lovers. Phaedrus argues that Aeschylus erred in claiming Achilles was the Aristates because Achilles was more beautiful and youthful than Patroclus, characteristics of the Eromenos, as well as noble and skilled in battle. Instead, Phaedrus suggests that Achilles is the Eromenos, whose reverence is that of Aristates, and Patroclus was so great that he would be willing to die to avenge him. Post-classical interpretations. William Shakespeare's play, Troilus and Cressida, portrays Achilles and Patroclus as lovers in the eyes of the Greeks. Oh man, oh god, they lost Shakespeare? Shakespeare is like the one constant that every right-winger likes to point out that is apparently part of the erasure of, like, you know, the greatest culture of all time, white culture. And then they always point towards, like, you'll see, like, you know, the PragerU videos, or Sargon said it before, it's like, you know, oh, they won't even let you study Shakespeare, the works of the bard. the greatest writer in human history to ever exist. They don't allow you to even study him in school. Well, I mean, I don't think you would have liked some of the things that you found out here. Achilles' decision to spend his days in his tent with Patroclus is seen by Odysseus, called Ulysses in the play, and many other Greeks as the chief reason for his anxiety about Troy. Jonathan Shea, whose book Achilles in Vietnam proposes reading of the Iliad that have been helpful and therapeutic useful to the healing of mental wounds in Vietnam veterans, pointed to their familiar relationship in the Iliad must not be overlooked. Patroclus is Achilles' cousin and his foster brother. Symbolically, comrades in battle are like brothers, making Achilles and Patroclus model for useful for thinking about the intensity of Vietnam's veterans feeling the loss of their comrades and when they fell beside them. In the film Troy, presented Patroclus as a younger relative of Achilles without romantic or sexual aspects. Modern academics, 100 years of homosexuality, compared Achilles and Patroclus in the tradition of Jonathan and David in Gilgamesh, approximately contemporary of the Iliad's composition, argued that while a modern reader is inclined to interpret the portrayal of these same-sex male warrior friendships as fundamentally homoerotic, it is important to consider the greater themes of these relationships. My word. And then, yes, I read this last time about homosexuality in ancient Greece, just to reconfirm. The ancient Greeks did not conceive of sexual orientation as a social identity as modern Western societies have done. Greeks did not distinguish sexual desire or behavior by the gender of the participants, but rather the role that each participant played in the sex act, that of the active penetrator or the passively penetrated. Within the traditions of pedestry, active-passive polarization corresponded with dominant and submissive social roles. The active, the penetrative role was associated with masculinity, higher social status, and adulthood, while the passive role was associated with femininity, lower social status, and youth.
Yes, Caesar was a lesbian.
Netflix made a new documentary about Alexander the Great. Within the first 8 minutes, they turned him gay. So we're no longer talking about Achilles, by the way. Alexander the Great is pretty much confirmed to be a bisexual historical figure, that he had not only one, but multiple male lovers. That's not something that they're trying to wokeify. They're trying to change. Trying to be like, oh, by the way, I mean, he got so roasted in this, he ended up having to do a help me community notes, help me, they're pointing out that he was in fact bisexual.
Yeah, Netflix uses someone who has got some things wrong. So anyway, what you see there's a video with Alexander in very intimate relationships with Hephaestion. He was a man of penetrating military insight. And they had several community notes on this tweet by End Wokeness, because
and I noticed the community notes are all gone.
Yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so I rate all of them as unhelpful, and I wasn't.
Lewis Regent, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. So there has been an attempt by far-right figures to erase the homosexuality or the bisexuality of Alexander the Great. Far-right Greek politicians Adonis Georgiadis, whose work has been criticized for attempting to assimilate antiquity to his homophobic viewpoint, has stated that Hephaestion was only Alexander's, quote, friend. Historian Paul Cartledge has countered this view, writing that any attempt to expunge all trace or taint of homosexuality from Alexander and their relationship is seriously misguided. Moreover, he notes that there was no stigma attached to homoerotic attachments in ancient Greece with almost certainty. Like that, it's well known, well established. It was a different time. And if you want to simply say that you think it's just super gay, that there was a normalization perhaps of same-sex sexual encounters for men, by the way, it was not the same for women, but that there was a normalization of that, or that great and noble warriors that you maybe worship as just being, you know, Spartans, for example. A lot of them oftentimes took lovers who were in fact other fighters who fought amongst them, and it was believed amongst generals that would make them even better warriors and fighters, because if there was a potential threat or loss to someone whom they had been having sexual relationships with or had developed attachment and a bond with, that they would fight even harder to protect that other person's lives. And we all know how fearsome the Spartans were known to have been. You're not going to see a lot of that in, say, the movie 300, even though the movie seems to have both fascist and simultaneously fascist and some pretty hard bodies on display, but either way, it's something that like I don't see a benefit outside of you being just an out fucking bigot who wants to erase history in doing this, like going down this thing, when it's like for Alexander the Great, it's pretty well fucking documented, you know. the Greeks, men had sex with other men, and it wasn't considered to be the way that Sargon sees it, as an abomination, right? Depending, of course, upon if you were in fact doing the penetrating at the time.
Okay, so what was fun about this is that if you see here, you don't have to look at that, but there's a dude here, a Netflix dude, saying there was no vocabulary in Greece about homosexuality. There was just being sexual.
That's not true.
So that's profoundly mistaken.
That's not true.
Let me just say that because this has to do with one of the worst features of ancient Greece, the direction of sexuality.
We're definitely
and
watching that next, by the way.
attraction was profoundly understood. And the word pedo comes from pederasty. And if they didn't understand that where sexuality is channeled and where attraction is coming from, they wouldn't have coined that word.
Yeah.
So this is someone.
That debunks nothing of what the historian was talking about. Well, the origins of the word, and I want to directly associate it right now with pedestry, which, I mean, the origins itself, yes, but if you want to look at the origins of language and whether or not people in that period were fucking each other, those are two completely different things.
Hephaestion really was not just a cherished companion, but perhaps his greatest love.
Oh. Fucking woke shit. Roadhounds. Gays. Modern day California. Yeah, more like Alexander the Gay. Am I right?
Till the bitter end.
Till the bitter end. Well, you saw it here first, everybody. Netflix doing history revisionism as part of the woke agenda, making every historical figure gay. You know, who's next? Liberace? Who will they come for? Who are they going to try and erase, you know, and change and take away from the straights? Like, straight people, you're going to be okay. Just my message to Sargon and the rest of the crew that who decided, yeah, we got to put on suits and ties to talk about this very important topic again. It's like their second or maybe it's their third video. I haven't been totally paying attention on this Netflix series coming out that really pisses them off, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. The vast majority of historical figures are straight, as are the vast majority of men. So that's why you don't need the straight pride parades and all that stuff. You don't have to feel threatened just because other people exist and want to celebrate. That's all I can really say, you know?
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also, thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.